Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios and brought to you by official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson's The Mission, available on Amazon and paperback and ebook. We're here with a terrific gentleman who's a 40-year veteran, Emmy-nominated performer, producer, writer, and 2017 Comedy Magician of the Year. He synthesizes his amazing history into showbiz into a powerful training system called the Wilson Method. What's the Wilson Method? We'll find about that. And of course, this gentleman with a powerful method helps owners, managers, and of course, employees communicate a lot better and towards success. And of course, he also appeared in a number of places in Atlantic City, Las Vegas, Reno, Lake Tahoe, such wonderful places like Caesar's Palace, Bally's, MGM, Grand, Harrah's, and also performed the Pinata of Doom for 2017 Ford Escape and for hundreds of corporate clients. He's also a podcast too on how to talk to humans. And of course, you think talking to humans is easy? Well, I think he's got a better alternative. So live, ladies and gentlemen, front of the Plus Studios in his wonderful studio, somewhere out there, it could be Vegas, could be Atlantic City, and he does it by magic. The Emmy-nominated 40-year veteran, performer, producer, writer, and 2017 Comedy Magician of the Year, and the host of the podcast, How to Talk to Humans, the multi-talented Larry Wilson. Larry, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much. It was quite an introduction.
And very magical indeed, too. So it's just like, we talked about some things, you know how to make it disappear. And you're Emmy nominated 40-year veteran, performer, producer, writer, and 2017 Comedy Magician of the Year. And you synthesize your history into showbiz into a powerful method called the Wilson Method. We'll find more about that. You also appeared in a number of places in Las Vegas, Atlantic City, Reno, and also Lake Tahoe as well. You performed the Pinata of Doom for 2017 Ford Escape ad, and for hundreds of corporate clients and more. You have a podcast called How to Talk to Humans. Of course, we know how to talk to humans, but some don't. And we'll talk about the art about that. And before we get into all that, Larry, tell us how you first got started.
Well, I have to say, it's very funny when I hear you say, we all know how to talk to humans. It's a funny thing about communication. It's very much like sex.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody thinks they're really good at it.
Mm-hmm.
But in truth, everybody isn't really good at sex or communication.
Mm-hmm.
And, like anything else, we can all benefit from a few techniques that we might learn along the way.
Mm-hmm.
How I got started, a strange circumstance. I have been, performing now for like almost 40 years with the biggest stars in entertainment, traveling all over the world. And I began to notice certain similarities they had. They all had certain communication skills that got them everything they wanted out of life.
Mm-hmm.
You would see them in a situation where you think, oh, this isn't going to work. And then they would get just what they wanted. And I realized that somehow they had figured out how to make people want to invest in them professionally, personally. It was the craziest thing. And so I thought, well, this is like graduate school. I better pay attention. And some of them, I'm telling you, Mike, some of them did not know what they were doing. They were working strictly on instinct. And so those people I would sort of have to model to figure out what was going on. But others were totally conscious. And if I said to them, and these are some very heavyweight people. These are like Academy Award-winning actors and hit song makers and people who were as high as you could go. And I would say to them, I just saw you in that conversation. You did blah, blah, blah. And I thought they were going to shut you down, but they didn't. What did you do? And they'd sort of go, oh, that was simple. And they just totally deconstruct what they did. And here's why I think it's so interesting, Mike. Every single one of these people, with few exceptions, were enormously talented. But none of them relied on talent. And that was an eye-opener for me because I realized, oh, yeah, talent, you never know what's going to go on with that. But technique, that's always accessible. If you practice it, you get better and better. It's always in your hip pocket. And I would see these incredibly talented people using technique so that they knew it was always there when they wanted it. And my first thought was, oh, well, technique is transferable.
Mm-hmm.
I can teach anyone, just the way there's somebody out there who can teach you how to hit a golf ball. There's somebody out there who can teach you how to make a pizza from scratch. There's somebody out there who can teach you how to quilt a quilt. All these things that are based on technique, there's somebody out there who can teach you.
Hmm.
And if they're a good teacher and you practice what they teach you, you'll become an expert. As simple as that.
Hmm. That's really interesting. You talk about talent and technique, and what else is there that's essential when it comes to great communication or being like very influential? There's talent and there's technique, and what else is there?
Well, I almost think that's all there is. I mean, there are obviously elements that are all about technique. I do in my Wilson method training, I do one of the things I did that got interrupted by COVID. I did a 2-day boot camp limited to just 10 students.
Mm-hmm.
And I call it boot camp because it really is like a boot camp. I make you do stuff. I'm talking about it and teaching you, but then I make you get up and do it so that you have the experience of feeling what it feels like. And doing that, there's so many different elements. I frequently I have certain touchstones in case you get lost. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'll say, remember 3 Ds. The Ds are determine, define, and deploy.
Hmm.
And I say, I want you in every communication to determine what your goal is before you enter into the communication.
Hmm.
What is it you're trying? I mean, I know it's so simple, Mike. It's so ridiculous, but you'd be surprised how few people do this. What do you want? Do you want a date? Do you want a job? Do you want a raise? Do you want a partner? What exactly is it you're going after? When you do that and you're clear about it, that takes your communication immediately up a quantum level. And when people do it, then they're astonished at how much more successful they are in their endeavors. And I'm the one who's always supposed to say, no, it's simple. Anyone can do it. But I learned the hard way over hit and miss over 30 years. I'm just helping you avoid that steep learning curve. I can just tell you right now, it couldn't be any easier. Then I want you to use the second D, which is to define the means of communication. Is it like we're doing here on Zoom? Or are we in the same room face to face? Or are we on the phone? Or is it a text? Or is it a email? Or is it, God forbid, a old school handwritten? All of these techniques require different approaches. And anybody who thinks there's a one size fits all is in for a rude awakening. You try to handle a text the way you handle email, you're in for trouble.
Yes,
And
indeed.
then of course the third D is deploy. Deploy the tools that I'm teaching in Wilson method. Now, for instance, in my boot camp, we'll spend a great deal of time on your voice, on learning to warm your voice up, on learning to use vocal affect so that we can hear color, texture, emotion in your voice. And again, people don't realize how much those skills have been lost with the advent of technology.
Yes, that's right. Social media, Instagram, TikTok, and of course, text and everything else. Yes,
You
it's
got
like
it.
that's been lost over the years. I totally agree with you on that one.
I'm, and it's crazy because I think 40 years ago, 50 years ago, a lot of what I teach is probably common knowledge. But once you start communicating almost exclusively by text, you lose all facial affect
Hmm.
because there's no need for it. And there's a lot I talk about in the Wilson method about semiotic communication. That is information that is signaled to another person without speech.
Hmm.
Now, sometimes we think of this as people say, oh, you mean like body language? And certainly body language is part of semiotics, but there's so much more. If I held up a stop sign and it was red, but it didn't have the word stop on it, you'd still know what the message was.
Hmm. Especially in terms of shape.
Absolutely. They see that shape, they see that color. The semiotic information, which is stop, and it's urgent stop. It's not stop if you feel like it. That's very powerful. There's so many things that are flying through the air between us all the time, transmitting semiotic information. If we do not identify them, if we do not understand them, then it makes communication a jumble of errors, a comedy of errors. You know, I'm always saying in Wilson method that the one thing I want to focus on is clarity. That I want you to communicate in a way that makes you impossible to misunderstand.
Hmm.
And I know, Mike, you've had this experience dealing with some passive aggressive people where they tell you one thing, but you're left with the feeling they really mean something else.
Hmm. Oh, it's like indirect, passive. You're
Uh-huh.
right. It's just like, subtle hints and everything.
Oh my God. I mean, it makes you want to pull your hair out. Um, and of course, there are techniques to deal with those people to kind of force them into a position where they have to be more clear and more direct. In some cases, they refuse to and they'll just hang up on you or they'll ghost you. They'll just disappear because it's too horrible for them. The beauty of being passive aggressive is that we never have to take any responsibility for what we've said.
Hmm.
If this is very popular, I guess, in politics,
Oh,
where
it's just rampant all over the place. Politics, business, even social media and everything else. It's like,
mm,
or if you post on Instagram, TikTok, think you're the best thing, but deep inside, it's like, you're just total opposite. Facebook is like that, and
right.
LinkedIn, and oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, what a fantastic thing to be able to say something in such a weaselly way that if somebody calls you on it, you can go, oh no, that's not what I meant. Oh no, 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 I didn't mean. Well, I mean, if that's your goal, that you want to be a weasel, then passive aggressive is very good. But if if instead, if you are looking to build a business, if you're struggling right now with a business that is a good, viable business, but not making enough money or not reaching enough customers, that's so easy to solve with better advanced communication.
Hmm. And what?
And
Go ahead. I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry.
No,
No,
no, go ahead.
no, well, I tell you, as soon as I said it, I realized what made me think of it. I saw an interview last year with Warren Buffett,
Hmm.
and he was being interviewed by a young interviewer. And the young interviewer said, Mr. Buffett, what could you tell us right now that would, help us in our entrepreneurial pursuits? And without missing a beat, Buffett says to him, oh, I can tell you one thing that'll increase your value by at least 50% right now. And I leaned forward, like watching this. I wanted to know what he had to say. I mean, you got me, Warren. What is it? He says, improve your communication skills, both written and verbal. He said, doesn't matter how brilliant you are if you cannot transmit that brain power. And, and I loved Buffett then says, he said, if you can't transmit that brain power, it's like winking at a girl in the dark. Nothing happens. I love it. Fantastic. And of course, he's right. He's right that I know you've had this experience, Mike. I know you've had this experience seeing someone who was so smart, but could not transmit that information.
Or also some people also try to take it to a higher level, like, using bigger words, philosophical words, and everything else. Where it's like I had a hard time trying to decipher people talking on a much higher plane. Nowadays, it's like, can you talk to us in plain language, please?
Absolutely. Well, I have to tell you, I'm always suspicious if someone's trying to explain something to me and those big words start coming in and I'm getting lost. An alarm goes off in my head because I've talked with, this just has to do with my life experience dealing with these people I've dealt with. What really launched, the real launch point for Wilson Method, I was speaking somewhere, I can't remember where it was, and a man came up out of the audience afterwards, introduced himself. He was Professor Alan Oppenheim, who was the Ford Professor of Engineering at MIT.
Nice.
And he comes up to me and he says, you're really good at what you're doing here, but I wanted to ask you, could I hire you to come to MIT to train some of our grad students in advanced communication technique? And I said, sure. So we did a 3-day event. And as always, I'm sort of trying to do my best and pass along essentially what it is my life's work. It's everything I've learned. And these MIT people, of course, were geniuses. They were just bad communicators, but they were so smart. They immediately picked up on what I was talking about and were able to implement them. And they had, sometimes I meet resistance when I'm trying to train people. And it's a normal, natural human thing. People are defensive, they want to say, hey, I'm not doing so bad. These MIT people weren't like that at all. They were on a mission to make themselves the better they could be.
Nice.
And after I spoke for quite a few hours, didn't matter afterwards. They mobbed me and they had more questions. They're talking about stuff. And I thought it was a fantastic experience. But Professor Oppenheim came up to me afterwards. He said, look, this is what you should be doing with your life. And I looked at him, I said, are you serious? And he said, yeah. Because to me, it doesn't seem like what I was talking about was so highfalutin. I mean, it seemed like very simple, obvious stuff. And he said, yeah, it is, except that no one knows it anymore. And no one has experience using it anymore. And he said, I'll give you another example that people who are listening right now can use right now to huge effect. You may have noticed that I maintain eye contact with the camera. Well, you'd think, yeah, so what? Well, it's really funny how difficult it is for most people to do that. They can do it a little bit, but then they start to flinch away from the camera. They make these micro avoidance movements. They're raising their chin and they're closing their eyes and they're looking off. they're doing all these things and they're not aware, one, that they're doing them, but if you show them, they aren't aware why they're doing it.
Hmm.
And it's simple. It's because that lens, that one eye, it's like a cyclopean eye of judgment.
Like the
You feel
CBS
like
logo. Yes.
that's right. That's right. I'm not sure if younger people will know what we mean, but you're close.
well,
You're
well,
100%. You're
well,
correct.
we can teach the younger crowd with this too. So it's like they rely on social media, and for us old timers, it was always the handwritten text, phone calls, and everything
Oh
else.
my
And I can
God.
use a landline right now and a typewriter. I could be typing this stuff right now to you. Ding, ding, ding.
I'm telling you, typewriters are coming back into vogue. But that cyclopean eye is unblinking and it won't look away from you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you haven't been trained properly, the way I do with Wilson method, you're not aware of how you feel slightly inadequate for the job. And it's unconscious. You just feel like, oh, who am I to think that I have something to say or something to share or something to teach, when in fact you probably do. But the resistance is you're really trying to escape from the camera when you start leaning back and looking
Or
away
like body
and
language, you go like this, you go like this, or walk around everything, or it's like you adjust everything like that. I've seen some people that just lean back, and I just like you try
Mhm.
to get them up forward too. So, and of course,
Absolutely.
what are some of the other common mistakes that people use? There's lack of eye contact. There's like poor body language, poor gestures, or even like not able to have the words come out, or selective hearing. That's even the worst as well. And what are some of the other blunders that you encounter as well too, and how to correct them?
Right. And I'll give your people right now a simple solution. Obviously, practice is very important.
Mm-hmm.
But here's a simple thing you can do right now. Print out a photo of someone you like. Maybe it's a loved one, maybe it's a pet, maybe it's a movie star you think is particularly attractive, whatever it is. And cut out the hole where one of their eyes is and put it over your camera so that your camera lens is looking through that eye hole.
Just like this example right here.
Here's a picture of Larry. You could cut that eye hole out. Now, I have a tendency sometime, I have a soft spot for Anne Margaret.
Really? How so?
I worked with Anne Margaret in Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas, and she could not have been nicer. She could not have been more gracious, more down to earth. She just one of the sweetest people I've ever met. And
Nice.
so I'll take one of those pictures of her looking very sultry, maybe looking back over her shoulder at you, and I'll put that over the camera. Well, now I feel like I'm looking directly and talking to someone who I have fond feelings for.
That's really interesting. And another one too, it's to get over fear of crowds, fear of public speaking, is you put stuffed animals in front of you. Like, you're talking about, a book report, or give a report about whatever. You just also lay out some stuffed animals. That's also a good technique.
I love that. I love that. It's so easy to do. And of course, it doesn't mean you're stuck doing it the rest of your life, because the more you do it, it starts to become second nature. Oh, I look into the camera.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm imagining I'm looking into the camera. But so many of those things, I'll also talk sometimes about 3 C's in Wilson method, to connect, convey, and create. I
Connect,
want you to
convey, and
be able,
create.
well, I want you to be able to connect with other people before you've said a word, so that you can convey your message and create authentic bonds with them. That all of these things are easily done. There's simple ways to do this, but when you do them regularly, the power they have is truly unbelievable. And you see it in the results of what's going on. People who you're having trouble making business dealings with suddenly seem to be more open to what you have to say. People, maybe in your family, there's turmoil and squabbling about, suddenly that fighting seems to calm down and it's easier to talk with other people. Maybe it has to do with you have a business of your own, you have employees, and maybe dealing with them is very difficult. You start to use some of these tools. It seems magical, although I assure you it is not magic.
Mm-hmm.
These are just technique. And this is what I learned watching these people. It was quite an extraordinary education watching some of these superstars. And, you know, it seemed like they were just doing it off the cuff, but I think it's because they'd been doing it for so many years, they didn't think about it.
You know, just like second nature to them. Of course, you're talking about things about being magic, being magical. Of course, you being a magician yourself. We'll talk more about that. You listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by SonicWeb Studios. Visit online at SonicWebStudios.com for all your needs. Looking at a professional website without breaking your budget, SonicWeb Studios is the answer. SonicWeb Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, time to give an official shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international war-ring author Mia Molson Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you'll love Missing by Mia Molson Zia, available on Amazon and paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is illusion and those you love will be the first to go missing. It's available on Amazon and paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Molson Zia has garnered great reviews. And Eve 11 enjoys by Howard celebrities, including Joanna Cassidy, Ford Farley, and Manils. So grab your copy today for Goes Missing by Mia Molson Zia, available on Amazon. Also, check out the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com or 40 podcast platforms. Heard in 100 countries, including Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also, Anchor FM, iTunes, Google Play, Amazon, Audible, and Apple Music. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on YouTube, BitChute, Rumble. Follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, LinkedIn as well. And make sure you take us with you on any mobile device. And for great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. T-shirts, pop sockets, throw pillows, tote bags, hoodies. Makes great gifts 24/7. Go to Amazon.com and check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. And for more great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com/Mia Molson Zia for great books like Missing, Once, and Wrinkles. Also t-shirts, pop sockets, hoodies, phone cases, and more. Amazon.com/Mia Molson Zia. Check it out today and support the Mike Wagner Show on Anchor FM, PayPal, and the MikeWagnerShow.com. Make sure you do so today. We're here with a 40-year veteran and Emmy-nominated performer, magician, producer, and writer extraordinaire, 2017 Comedy Magician of the Year, Larry Wilson, and the Larry Wilson Method here on the Mike Wagner Show. And of course, you know, you make a lot of magic with the Larry Wilson Method. You also made some magic as well, too. And tell us how you first got started in the magic business.
Well, that's a, that's a question no one ever asks me.
Really?
Yeah. You would think it would be so obvious, but it's a strange story. I'll see if I can tell it as succinctly as possible. I did magic when I was little, as I suspect a lot of young boys do, are interested in it. But I didn't really think much of it. It was just some fun thing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got much more interested in filmmaking.
Oh, wow.
And I went to UC Santa Cruz and got a degree in filmmaking from there. And when I graduated, came home to Los Angeles, everyone had just graduated from filmmaking school.
Huh.
You couldn't turn around with bumping into someone who just graduated. And I had friends who were very talented filmmakers, and none of us could get jobs. I mean, we were fighting over jobs that had no pay, that you're going to work as some kind of, I don't know,
Or like an intern, gaff, PA,
Yeah.
whatever it is, or maybe
I was
like,
thinking,
or what was it, like an extra or something, and maybe like an extra of like, 5,000 people in a film like Gandhi, Animal House, or
right.
anything like that.
I was thinking more of the word slave is what was coming to mind. But of course, you're right. All those opportunities just to be on. And I managed to get a job on a low budget film as a sound engineer.
Hmm.
And I did a pretty damn good job, if I do say myself. And after about, I don't know, sometime in the first week, one of the other crew members said to me, said, "Do you have any other clothes?" And I said, "Yeah, what do you mean?" He goes, "We've been wearing the same clothes for 5 days." I said, "No, I haven't." He goes, "Yeah, yeah, you have." And I realized, oh, we were working 16 hours a day. These are in the days before cell phones and computers. And so I would go home, I would lay down on the bed, immediately fall asleep, and then the phone would ring in the morning telling me where the next location was. And you just get up and go, and that was it.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, it was exhausting, but I was excited because I had a job. I was being paid $175 a week, Mike. I
Hmm.
felt I was on top of the world, 175 a week. In the course of this, we were working 6 days a week, I should point out. On my one day off, I ran into somebody who remembered me and said, "Oh, do you still do that magic stuff?" And I said, "Oh, no, no. I just, it's all filmmaking now, all filmmaking." And they said, "Oh, that's really exciting." I said, "Oh, why do you ask?" They said, "Well, my parents are going to have a party. They were going to hire a magician." And I said, "Oh, well, what what were they going to pay?" And he said, "I don't know, 800, 900 for the evening or something." I
Nice.
said, "Well, now hold on a second. I could still do that." And they said, "Oh, well, if you'll do it, yeah, they'll hire you." So I go home and I pull out all my old magic stuff and I try to brush myself up and I go and do this party. And the most astonishing thing at this party was that everybody acted like they were so happy to see me. And I thought, gosh, this is a great feeling. And I thought, and someone said, "Oh, could we have one of your business cards?" I said, "Well,
Nice.
I just ran out of my business cards, but I'm going to write it on this cocktail napkin for you." So suddenly I start doing all these parties. Now we're in Los Angeles. So
Hmm.
at one of these parties, there's someone who says, "Oh, uh, would you like to be on television?" And
Nice.
I said, "Do I get paid?" And he said, "Yeah, of course you get paid." And he was the talent coordinator. I can't remember for one of those daytime talk shows, Dinah Shore, Merv Griffin, something like
Mm.
that.
I think it
And
was I think it was Merv Griffin somewhere along those lines. He was a huge powerhouse back in the day. I'm trying to remember some of
oh
the
my
others, but
God, yes.
Merv Griffin was a number one powerhouse.
Oh my God. And I'll tell you something funny about him in a moment. But I think you're right. I think it was Merv. So they put me on the show. And, for your younger viewers listeners may not understand this, uh, things didn't stream then. So you might record something and it might not appear on the air for months,
Hmm.
you know. But the next day, I got a phone call from a woman saying, "Hi, I'm so and so. My brother-in-law is the talent coordinator for that show you did yesterday." And I said, "Oh, okay." And she said, "They just said you were so nice and you're so professional and you showed up sober and you were on time." And
Sober, really?
right. And at the time, I have to tell you, Mike, it didn't occur to me that you couldn't show up sober. I thought, well, of course I showed up sober. Of course I showed. Are you kidding me? It's a job. Anyway, she said, I booked talent for another show, whatever that other daytime shows. She said, "Would you like to do our show?" And I said, "Do I get paid?" She said, "Of course you get paid." I said, "Well, then, yeah, I'd be happy." Next
Nice.
thing I know, Mike, I'm on all these talk shows. They have me back on repeatedly. Do you remember John Davidson?
The
had
John Davidson show. Yes,
That's
I
right.
remember John Davidson. And there are bad days. I get crossed up with a hockey player from the New York Rangers. Yes, John
That's
Davidson. I
right.
remember that. Yes.
Davidson had a daytime talk show. I think I did 37 appearances. Now, I want to make something very clear because I think it's instructive. I don't think I was that good. I mean, I think I was passable. I think I was okay. But I think two things were going on, which is why they kept having me back on. I think one, my communication was very, very clear.
Nice.
In the routines that I was doing on camera, they were very clear. Okay, it may not have been the world's most earth-shaking magic, but it was clear what I was doing. Then also, I think my communication with the people behind the scenes was equally clear. They want me to show up at this time with this length set prepared, and whatever you do, do not mention this. And I gave them exactly what they said to me. I remember one episode of Davidson, they asked me to do 6.5 minutes. So I prepared a 6.5 minute bit. I showed up. I'm standing about to go on. There's a floor manager there with a headset. He's standing by to count me in. He says, oh, hold on a minute, Larry. Hold on. He says, they want you to cut to 4.5. Now, this is just moments before you go on, and I had no idea how I was going to do that, but I thought I better. And then he goes, stand by. And he goes, stand by. We're just, oh, wait, no. They went 5.5 minutes. 3, 2, 1, you're on.
Poof.
And so I went on, and in my head was a clock running. And I came off right at 5.5 minutes. Because I remember from that point on, they loved me. And it wasn't because I was such a brilliant performer. It was because I was listening to what they said. I wasn't coming back with some argument about, well, I'm much better if I do whatever. No. They had a specific thing they had to take care of, and I was solving their problem. That's why.
That is rather interesting, I have to say. And what was the most challenging situation that you've ever been in, and how'd you manage to resolve
it? Well, it's a really good question. There are quite a few of them. If I had to choose one that for some reason tickles me.
I joined in the meantime here, so.
Well, I do a lot of corporate work, and I have almost from the very beginning. Because corporate people have these meetings. Sometimes they're dry or dull, or people are there who don't really want to be there. So they throw someone like me to break the tedium and make it a little bit more fun. And the fact that I'm able to do more than a normal performer, once they talk with me, they realize, oh, I can write material into the show that's specifically about your industry and your company and make it personalized. And people love that so much because it makes them feel like I'm one of them. So I'm doing a lot of corporate stuff. And to this day, that's the majority of my work is corporate.
That's interesting. I thought you're going out there going to have you make the CEO disappear or something like poof.
Well, funny you should say. I have made CEOs disappear. More popular, I've had CEOs appear out of thin air. And the audience reaction is off the charts because there's so much semiotic information going on. They're thinking, that's our CEO. But I didn't know he knew how to do that, you know? I didn't know. Or sometimes I'll make someone change into someone. I'll have a beautiful woman assisting me, and she'll change into some special guest speaker they have who they're introducing. Um, it has a much more profound impact than if it was just a regular show. So I'm doing a corporate event, and this is early in my career, in San Francisco, in one of those gigantic convention hotels. And, they have a lot of conventions going on simultaneously. And we're in a huge ballroom, and I've brought in all my people like 8 hours in advance. So we're able to walk through and get the lights and the sound set just exactly right and where we're going. The big finale for the show, without giving away anything I'm not supposed to give away, Micah, I'm on stage and I'm in a box, and then the box is suddenly knocked open and the sides fall down and it's empty, and I've disappeared. And right at that moment, you hear my voice from the back of the room say, "Here I am." And the audience turns around, and there I am riding a 6-foot tall white rabbit that I ride up to the stage.
So clever.
It's funny. And I don't know if I sent you that photo or not, but I will. So you'll have it. You can use for yourself. Very fun.
I would love to have something like that. Maybe I'll construct a 6-foot white rabbit for my kids when they come back. I know they're older, but it's like, they're all so creative. It's like, I think I'll start doing that. I'll build a 6-foot white rabbit. I think I'll take
You
on
can't
that.
go wrong. I mean, it's a crowd pleaser. There's no one who doesn't like it. Well, without giving away too much, Mike, how the trick works is I'm in that box, but obviously I must surreptitiously escape from the box without the audience noticing. And then I have to run around from backstage outside the room and enter from the back of the room. And, you have to be moving as fast as you can. Now, when I was younger, I didn't always do things that were as smart as I do them now. This is also called learning, You make a terrible mistake. So I had worked it out, and I knew I could run that distance really fast, and I knew everything would work out just great. When we do the show, I run back. I'm running through the kitchen all the way back out into the lobby area. When I get out in the lobby area, there are like 16 doors to 16 different ballrooms.
Wow.
And I have no idea which one is the one that I'm supposed to be in. And so I just picked one. I looked at one that I thought was the closest, picked it, opened the door, went in, instantly realized I was in the wrong room. The room was packed. There were no women. It was only men. And they were dressed so beautifully, so elegantly, not like the business people who'd been in the room where I was in. These men were dressed to the nines. And I ran in the room and said, "I'm here," which is kind of my line that I say. And the entire audience turned around and looked at me. There was a beat, and some man shouted, "The stripper's here." That was not one of my finest moments. Not one of my finest moments.
That and those 6-foot white rabbits too.
Right. So after that, I learned that you walk through the exact pathway that you're going to take when you do this effect, so that you know where you're going to show up. And if you have to, you may put a colored piece of tape on the door to identify the door you're supposed to go through.
Oh, That's very helpful, and I'm gonna remember that. That is too funny. And of course, speaking of, having your escape, you also, did something special in 2017 with Escape, a Ford Escape, and winning results and more. We'll get to that in just 1 minute with Larry Wilson. You listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios, and brought to you by official sponsor, The Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson Missing. We'll be back with the Emmy-nominated amazing magician and the host of the podcast, How to Talk to Humans, Larry Wilson, after this timeout. We're back with the amazing, multi-talented Larry Wilson here on the Mike Wagner Show. And 2017 was a magical year for you. You managed to escape. You were in a Ford Escape and you performed the Pinata of Doom. And tell us more about that. And 2017 being the Comedy Magician of the Year. Very magical year for you.
Well, it was quite a year. Among other things, I happened to be the executive director of a nonprofit in Northern Nevada called the Education Renaissance of Nevada Initiative. And our goal is really to bring arts and education to school kids, particularly things that have been cut from school budgets.
Mm-hmm.
So we have an event that we do every November called Spellbinders, where we bring in top magicians from all over the world.
Wow. Okay.
From China, from France, from Japan, from Germany, from the UK, from Mexico, from Canada, from all over. And they perform for free in public libraries.
Nice.
Now, we also have a second roster of world champion magicians who perform for free in our Performing Arts Center. Seats about 1,500. It's also free, but you must have tickets to get into it. And you get the tickets by going to any library and asking for them. So it's been enormously successful. This year will be our 9th edition of it. It's enormously gratifying to see these people, especially because a lot of them have little kids, never been in a library before, never been in a performing arts center before, and they are over the moon. The kids are so excited about it. So it's a great, great experience. And, part of this was a leading directly into your question there, and I'm sorry, I just lost track of your question. You asked me.
No, that's okay. It was just a magical year of 2017. We talked about Escape, your Ford Escape, you appeared in the ad, and you performed the Pinata of Doom.
It was because of that, because of the nonprofit, that year we did the Pinata of Doom, which is a routine I have where I'm going to do the world's most dangerous escape. And I asked parents in the audience, have you ever noticed any material that's more indestructible than a pinata? You can hit it with any kind of club or knife. It's impossible to break them open. So my assistants lower a pinata large enough to stick me inside of, and they lift it in the air, and then they start whacking it with hockey sticks and axes and things.
Nice.
Finally, they break it open, and candy and things shoot out of it, but I've disappeared. And this is another example where I appear at the back of the room riding the 6-foot rabbit, the Pinata of Doom. So people from Jimmy Kimmel's show heard about it and reached out to me and said, it's always so funny dealing with people who are in film or TV versus live theater, because they said, can you do this live? I said, well, of course, I'm in a theater. I do. They go, no, but really live. I said, yes, there's no editing or CGI when you're in a theater. It's live. It has to be live. They said, okay. Ford Motor Company wants us to promote the new Ford Escape. And we thought this would be really funny if you seem to be confused thinking they mean an escape trick when they really mean the car. And I said, oh, great. So, there's a character on that show named Guillermo, who's sort of like Jimmy's sidekick and winds up having to do all kinds of terrible things for him. So the way they reworked it is I was going to put Guillermo inside the pinata of doom, and then he would disappear, and he would reappear driving the Ford Escape, which sounds great, except in TV, people start asking for impossible things. About a week before, they said, could we do this out on Hollywood Boulevard on the street? And one of the things you learn in show business, Mike, the answer is always yes. We'll figure out later how to do it. But
right, that's a mentality. I know how it goes. I've been there. Yeah. So yes, and then figure it out later.
That's right. I have no idea how we're going to do this, but the answer is, oh yeah, of course we can.
Right, and of course that's we start to brainstorm and just about everything, and of course you make magic out of it, literally. So
so I said, here's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to build essentially a jewel box theater on the Hollywood Boulevard with a backstage and sidewalls, and you're going to have to control these sight lines. You can't have people above us on the balconies. You have to clear those off, and we're going to have to mark out this distance to run. And it's funny. I mean, it's an exciting thing. The thing that is very exciting about film and television, when they decide they want to do something, money is no object.
Right. Yes.
It was like a military operation. They must have brought in 100 people. I saw them set up this thing. It was incredible. I brought in my own guy because just had to have my safety net. A guy named Ray Pierce, who's like one of the top riggers and guys involved in flying stuff. And I said, Ray, we have to set this up so that they can hoist this pinata up in the air safely, and Guillermo can vanish from it. And Ray, who has a vast background in magic, was way ahead of me. He said, oh, I get it. And he said, how much do they have on the budget? And I said, you tell me how much you need and we'll get it. So we did. So the only problem with something like this is they're doing it live on Hollywood Boulevard. So there's no chance for a second take or editing or anything like that. So we had to rehearse the fare thee well out of it so that every single one of my people knew exactly what they were doing. And they did. They performed like champions. I think it got 750,000 views within the first couple of days.
Wow.
And, of course, to be able to work with Ford is a great honor. To be able to work with Jimmy Kimmel, fantastic honor. That really is the sort of thing that I most enjoy doing these days. And that's a good example of one where we clearly customized the whole routine. I had to take Guillermo, who I have to tell you, I have to make sure I mention this. He was the nicest, most down-to-earth, funny, charming. He was like Cary Grant, that Guillermo. I know on the show he plays sort of more of a bumpkin, but that's a character he's playing. He was a delight to be with. And I'll tell you this too, really good actors like that, they learn magic effects so fast because a lot of what they do frequently is learning to do something they've never done. I was at Sean Penn's house one afternoon, some barbecue or something, and there are a couple friends over. And this is when he lived up in Malibu Hills, and there was a gigantic canyon behind his house. And one of his guests was some top tennis pro, or golf pro. And he said, could I hit some balls into the canyon? And Sean said, yeah, sure. So the guy had his clubs and stuff, and the guy hit a couple of amazing shots into the canyon. And Sean said, oh, could I take a couple swings? And the guy said, oh, yeah, sure. Sean tees up a ball and hits the most incredible shot. And his guest looked at him and said, I didn't know you played golf. And Sean said, oh, yeah, yeah. In high school, I was on a golf team. We won the state championship and stuff. And everyone turned and looked at him. And then Sean started laughing and said, no, I've never held a golf club in my life. But what he had was that actor's skill of being able to observe something and then mimic it with tremendous confidence.
Wow.
God, I've seen this again and again and again. Guillermo did this complicated escape trick we did. He rehearsed with us for a full day, but he did it like, oh, I've been doing this all my life. He was fantastic.
That's got to
Utterly.
be fantastic, and that's very important. I learned a lot from him, Larry. And where can we find all your works at, and where can we find your podcast at, Larry?
Well, you can always find information about Wilson Method at thewilsonmethod.com. But you know what, Mike? Let me do something for your people, because you have kind of a special group here, I think.
Mm-hmm.
The people, you're international, aren't you?
Yes, we are, and as you could tell, I've won some awards. If you look at my website and everything, and I'm about to pull up my trusty pillow as well too, and Global 50 Best Radio Shows of 2020, and New York Weekly Times, LA Weekly Times, and I'm always relying on my pillow right here too. So that's my number one seller. My number one two seller, by the way, is the tote bags and the t-shirts, and also the hoodies as well too. So
And
that's something
I
of
have
international too. Yeah, and then
I have to say the book you held up, Killer, looked particularly interesting. I
yes, it
think I
did,
may
and of course it goes missing too at times. It is a bestseller. So
well, I have to pick it up because it really was spoke to me. But what I was thinking is, because you have this kind of far-reaching group, I'm going to do something special for your people. If they go to thewilsonmethod.com/Mike, Mike,
mm-hmm.
I'm going to have some amazing things for them there that won't be for other people. I'm just about to roll out a introduction to Wilson Method training as an online program. And if they go to thewilsonmethod.com/Mike, there'll be a I want to say coupon, but it may just be a button. We'll discount it 50% there. And all it is really is rewarding people who take action.
Indeed.
That's all it is. So much in life I have learned was just showing up.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is.
Right.
Right.
And it's not that hard to do. People, of course, who are interested more in securing my services as a magician can always go to LarryWilsonMagic.com,
Mm-hmm.
and you can see a bunch of stuff there. And those of you on LinkedIn, I think I'm sort of jammed together as a hybrid of both parts of me.
Okay.
But I will say this: if your people reach out to me, this is the only caveat. I want them to say that they saw me on your show or heard me on your show. If they tell me that, any question they have about communication, about Wilson Method, anything like that, I will personally respond to,
Okay.
because I see them all, I read them all.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I get people who are saying the weirdest things, and it's very clear that they haven't heard me on a podcast. I don't know what they think I am. I don't know if they think I'm part of Dungeons and Dragons or something. But someone who listened to this, if this resonated with you, then you're my kind of person. So I want to do that as something special.
And you're my kind of guy, Larry, and you make things out of magic. You definitely showed up. You are number one in my book, Larry. So I got to say this. We're here with the multi-talented Larry Wilson of the How to Talk to Humans podcast and Mike Wagner show. Great job talking, by the way, talking to us humans as well, too, and clearing up things. And just a couple of things. Who do you consider biggest influence in a career?
Biggest influence in the career? There's so many of them. I would say I'm trying not to be controversial, but I would say when I was a kid, there was a guy who had a TV show named Soupy Sales.
Soupy Sales, I remember him. We saw him at oh my gosh, was it Knott's Berry Farm, Disney World, where it is back in 78? What a guy. Oh my gosh.
And Soupy had a very profound effect. He obviously squeaky clean.
Mm-hmm.
It never occurred to me when I was a grown man and working in clubs, and I would hear people use inappropriate language. I was shocked more than anyone because I just thought, you can't do that on stage. Well, apparently I was wrong. Apparently you can do it. But I grew up watching these guys who were so funny without resorting to any cursing. And it was all super clever. It was clever wordplay. It was clever communication. And it was just indelibly etched in me. So that he may be, Soupy may be one of the major influences.
And certainly one of the best to this day. And what's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point, Larry?
Well, it may sound a little syrupy sweet.
Or Soupy, or Sales.
Or Soupy, yes. But I'll say this, and this is really the truth, Mike. From the vantage point of having seen a lot of different performers over my life and a lot of different speakers over my life, what we're really trying to do is connect with people in an authentic way.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's trainers who want to teach you tricks or hacks or gimmicks. Maybe that works. I don't know. I've never seen it be successful. I've only seen it look corny and artificial. If you learn to connect authentically with an audience, this is why I say in the 3 C's, connect before you've said a word. Come out, your body posture, your face, your eyes, manifest an openness and willing to connect. I've seen those performers capture the hearts of strangers and make them into lifelong friends. And it doesn't matter, you can say, well, if you were Elvis, you could do that. Yeah, he had something special going on. But there are plenty of other singers at that time. Some of them had great music, great song. They didn't become Elvis. Elvis is a really good example because I saw him in one of his last performances. I didn't even really know him or care for him. I was dragged along. And when I saw him the second he hit the stage, I thought, oh, I get it. This is incredible. That's what we're looking for. And ultimately, I think that's the purpose of this whole life, is to feel the connection with other people. When we feel separate from them, I think that's where a lot of our pain and suffering comes from.
Right. Yes. And that's very important as well, too. And remember as well, that's very good advice. Once again, with the multi-talented Emmy-nominated performer, producer, magician, and comedian, and the host of the podcast, How to Talk to Humans, Larry Wilson, here on the Mike Wagner Show. Larry, very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely amazing. Learned a lot from you. Looking forward to having you again soon. Keep us up to date. Keep in touch. Love you have it back. Maybe a little magic trick or two. And once again, what's your website, how do people contact you, and where can people purchase or check out your works or check out your podcast?
Well, thanks very much. They can always hit the podcast How to Talk to Humans, available wherever podcasts are harvested. And they can always reach me through thewilsonmethod.com. But if you're listening to this podcast, do yourself a favor and go to thewilsonmethod.com/Mike.
We will certainly do that. Once again, Larry, big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely amazing. Looking forward to having you again soon. Keep us up to date. Keep in touch. Love to have you back. Wish you all best. And Larry, you definitely have a great future ahead of you. Very magical.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you.